Hello, friends, and welcome back to Tutti Talks, the podcast where music and conversation come together. I'm your host, Aveline Shinky, and joining me today are my co-hosts, Braden and Seamus. We're so excited to be joined by our special guest, Andrew Laven, assistant principal cellist of the Grand Rapids Symphony and cello faculty at Grand Rapids Community College. In this episode, we'll be talking about Andrew's journey with music, his experience as a professional orchestral musician, and what it's like balancing performance with teaching. He shares insights on practice routines, dealing with burnout, and how his relationship with music has evolved over the years. Whether you're a student considering a music career or just curious about what it's like to be a professional musician, this episode has something for you. So let's get right into it. Andrew, I want to thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. And could you just tell us a little bit about your background, where you've got your degrees from, kind of what you're doing now, just all of those things?
Yeah. I have degrees from Eastman and Rice, and I moved to Grand Rapids from Rice University after winning the job at Grand Rapids Symphony. And that's what I've been doing for the past, almost 7 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, time flies. Before going to college, I grew up in a town outside of Boston. That's where I went to middle school and high school. And before that, I lived in Houston when I was in elementary school. So that's where I started cello, was when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So it's been a long journey, but it really has gone really fast, like crazy fast.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Looking back on your journey, is there a key moment or turning point that really solidified your path in music?
Yeah, there's so many moments. There's too many to count, honestly, because each one is different, and each one sort of cemented in my mind what I wanted to do. I think the reason I wanted to play cello in the very first place was because my dad plays cello, and I think when I was little, I just really liked the sound of it. It was like, I don't know, nice and warm and not too high. No offense to high instruments. My mom plays the piccolo. So I think, not that I decided against high instruments because of that, but I think I just heard the cello and I liked the sound, so I wanted to play it. And I wanted to be like my dad too. What kid doesn't want to be like their parents? So my parents are both musicians. My mom she's a piccolo player. That's her job. She's in the Boston Symphony, and she also plays flute. And my dad is a cellist, and in the Boston area, he pretty much plays, in all of the gigs, all of the ways you can make a living playing cello in Boston, he does, and he teaches. So I've seen all sides of how you can make a living doing music. I think, to go back to your question, key moment or turning point for me when I decided I wanted to do music was when I was probably about 14 and just like sitting in a concert watching the Boston Symphony. I think they were playing Mahler 2, and they get to the end, and it's, for anybody who doesn't know Mahler 2, it's a really long symphony, like an hour and 45 minutes. And at about the hour and 30 mark, sort of the skies open up at the end of the piece. It's really dramatic. It's very, it's kind of otherworldly. And I think I just remember sitting there like, wow, I got to do that. Sit on stage and play in orchestra like that. So, yeah.
You talked about how both of your parents are musicians. Can you tell us about how growing up around music, especially seeing your parents perform, shaped your passion for becoming a musician?
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those things where I didn't realize how it was affecting me until I was in their profession. I think as a kid, it was normal. Like they'd go to concerts. We had a huge bookshelf, all of CDs on the wall that, as a kid, I would pull them out and want to listen to them. I think growing up around, not even just hearing them play, but hearing music, like hearing classical music on the CDs, which we had back then, or the radio, or just like music was around. So that just was always in my head, I guess. So that's one thing. I think seeing them perform together was pretty cool. Like I think I remember a couple of concerts seeing them perform together. My dad also writes music. He's composed for probably about 30 years now. So I think it's something he started just on the side. He's like, yeah, it's fun to just kind of write down whatever's in your head. And he started writing more, and he He's written a lot of stuff for like 2 cellos, a flute, and a bass. So my brother also plays the bass. So I like grew up around all the instrument, all the registers. So he's written like music for us to play together. So that's also been, really fun memories. Just I think the biggest thing I take away from growing up with music is because it was such a positive experience and it had positive memories attached to it. It made it really less scary for me to want to do music. It kind of just seemed inevitable. Like, oh yeah, that's like what I want to do. Because going into music is objectively pretty scary because it's really hard. So I think having parents who live that life and my brother, same thing. And I saw how hard it was, but I saw how fun they make it. So that kind of was a big one for me.
What was your experience like in youth orchestra, and how did it influence your decision to pursue music professionally?
Great question. Youth orchestra, I didn't start till I was, I want to say 5th grade, which was our last year in Houston, and it was string orchestra. And then when we moved to Boston, I started in a program it was called GYPSO back then, but it's called BYSO, Boston Youth Symphony Orchestras. And they have like 4 levels of orchestras, and I started in like the 2nd one, and then the 3rd one, and then the biggest one. And each one, I think I sort of gained some like confidence of like, oh yeah, like not only can I like play with these people who are really good, but it's really fun to play in a group. Because I feel like up till that point I had done like Suzuki recitals, and like for anyone who doesn't know, Suzuki is like the training program for young musicians, and there's like levels and books that you get to I think I got to like book 4 or 5. There's like maybe 8. So getting into youth orchestra changed my perspective, because then I was like, wait, all these kids are doing the same thing as me and they are really having fun too. And that was kind of infectious. So about that same time that story happened with Mahler, when I saw the concert, I think also that was the time when I got into the best like group of the youth orchestra, and I was listening to music at a high level and playing it at a high level, and like just really everything was kind of coming together. So that was huge.
Do you think you have a personal connection with Mahler because of that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I always loved Mahler. The symphonies are probably the best, like one of the best examples of symphonic writing. I think it's one of those things where he perfectly like paints a picture of what it's like when everybody comes together and is like everybody's doing something a little different, but it's coming together to make one thing. So that's a feeling I remember watching when I saw that concert, and also like getting that feeling in youth orchestra.
Would you say Mahler 2 is your favorite Mahler?
Yes, I would say Mahler 2 is probably my favorite. I love 5 too. 5 is really good. I still have to play 3, 6, and 9. Those are the ones I haven't done. This is our first plug for Grand Rapids Symphony here. We're doing Mahler 6 next year.
Nice.
That's going to be amazing.
Mahler 5 is my wake-up alarm.
Yeah. the trumpet in the beginning. Nice.
All right. So was there a plan on where to end up after you graduated college? Did you have like a specific state you wanted to go to? Did you want to end up in Michigan?
It's a funny story. Like I guess, and I don't really remember saying this, but I guess my parents told me that, they ask you in elementary school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you have to do like do some research on that profession. And I remember doing that, and I remember saying that I wanted to do music. But what I didn't remember was that apparently I had said, I'm going to go to the Eastman School of Music, because my dad went there too. And I'm going to I didn't say I was going to move to Michigan, but I said, I'm going to go to Eastman School of Music and then I'm going to be in an orchestra or something. And that was in like 5th grade. So I don't remember doing that. And then when I was choosing colleges, I don't remember like, oh, like I have to go to Eastman. I just remember visiting and like, oh yeah, this is the place for me. Same with Rice when I went to Rice. As far as moving to Michigan, I had no idea about where I didn't really like sit down and, okay, I'm going to only audition in these states. I think at the time I was auditioning for orchestras, which was in my master's at Rice. I was sort of just doing what everybody else was doing, which was try to get a job anywhere and then figure out the rest later. but that being said, I'm really glad I ended up here. So I took this audition because I guess one, it was a place I could get to and I was free. Like that's, and I think it being a title chair, like assistant principal, that kind of was part of the reason that got me excited was, oh, like I get a chance to learn not just like the standard orchestra excerpts, but also a couple more, which like feature a more soloistic side of the instrument, which I think I just wanted to be able to work on that too. And then as far as Grand Rapids specifically, I had never been here before. My first time here was when I auditioned, and I got here and I was like, wait, I really love this city. This is so cool. Mm-hmm. And actually, I auditioned twice. So the first time they didn't hire anybody. I made it to the finals, but they didn't hire. But I got to talk to some of the people on the committee. We were really nice, and they just encouraged me to come back if I was free to come back when they scheduled it, and I did because I remember liking the city a lot, and I had a good experience auditioning, even though I didn't win. And then the second time, I feel like I came back knowing, okay, this is like a place I can see myself, and I think I ended up winning because I wasn't really that desperate. I was just like, okay, I would really love to be here. And it's just good vibes. So yeah. So yeah, I didn't choose specifically Michigan, but I'm really glad I ended up here because I love it here.
Yeah. And then did you have any idea that you would be teaching at GRCC at all?
No. The GRCC thing came up in 2020. So I moved here in 2019 and we shut down, of course, that next spring. My first season was 2019 and 2020, and we shut down that spring. And then that summer of 2020, this was all happening virtual, of course, but I got offered to be adjunct. Well, I didn't get offered right away, but they asked me if I would be interested in like giving a trial lesson and stuff. So I did that over Zoom. It was really weird giving lessons over Zoom. Don't miss those days. But yeah, so I ended up getting offered an adjunct position, which is basically part-time. The number of students I have in a given semester varies on whoever's interested in taking cello, and there's different levels and stuff. But no, I did not anticipate that at all. Like I remember I had taught when I was at Rice in Houston. I would once a week go to a high school in the suburbs of Houston and help teach one-on-one lessons with their kids, so the high schoolers. But I had never taught sort of like college level, and I'd never taught out of college. So I was like really kind of brand new at that when they offered me that. So I was a little nervous, but it's as you keep teaching, it gets a little easier because you have to. It ends up being that you are teaching like the things that you should also be thinking about for yourself. So it's really actually helpful to me to teach other people because I'm like, what would I tell this person when I'm practicing? I sometimes think that, what would I tell my student to do? Maybe I should do that. So yeah.
Okay. Now, how different was it to go into your master's degree? Were there majorly different standards, stuff like that?
Yes. I don't know if the standards for a master's level are higher than bachelor's, obviously. I think for me, I noticed a big difference just in my first semester coming from Eastman to Rice. For me personally, it was that at Eastman, I was in sort of a bubble, which I think undergrad in general, like sometimes you find your people, you find your environment, you find what's comfortable for you. And then for masters, you have to jump out of that bubble. So that was really scary at first. I just had to get used to, I don't know, like the intensity was different too. Like everybody at Eastman, I think there was a lot more, how do I say that? Like there was a lot of people had different focuses, like chamber music, orchestra, solo. Some people were doing double degrees at Eastman. So they had other, business. I had friends who were business majors, so stuff like that. And then at Rice, in that specific music school, Shepherd School of Music, everybody is after the same thing, which is to get an orchestra job. And it's a really great program. Like it was the reason I wanted to go to Rice was because of their orchestra program. So when I got there and like, wait, all of a sudden everybody is just practicing all the time, practicing excerpts all day. So I felt like I had to do that. So that was really intense for me to start off there. And then I had to sort of step back and wait, okay, like I don't have to, be stuck in a practice room for 6 hours. I can, be a normal person. And in fact, to find out that everybody feels the same way as me was also really like comforting, because you're like, you think everybody is against you and doing things better than you, but actually everybody wants the same thing. And everybody was really supportive both places I went to. So that was really helpful.
Yeah. And then just one quick follow-up on Rice. During your master's, did you play in their orchestra?
Yeah.
Because I remember I did get to go down and tour because I was thinking about Rice as a school. I mean, it's really big, really hard to get into. So I went down and I got to listen to their orchestra perform, I think, something by Prokofiev. And I was like, oh my gosh. This is insane. Like I probably wouldn't be able to do this right now, but I didn't remember seeing at least the doctoral students there. So I know
doctoral students they were usually not in the orchestra. I knew some of them, played in chamber music groups with them, but usually they weren't in orchestra. Master students though, yes. So as a master student, I was in both the chamber and the symphony. There's a chamber orchestra and they rotate pretty much. They try to make it equal. But yeah, pretty much every semester I was in an orchestra group at Rice, which some of my best orchestra experiences were at Rice, definitely. Yeah. So I'll be forever grateful to Larry Radcliffe, who has sadly passed away, but he was the music director, and he just really, he really like inspired all of us to, go after something more, sort of like in the Mahler, how you're going for something bigger and you're just part of a massive puzzle. He was really, he really preached that for sure.
Talking about musicians, how has your perspective on being a musician evolved from when you first started to now as a professional cellist?
Nice question. To start from when I was in youth orchestra and I was just excited, sort of like a dog with a bone. You're just excited to be there. And I think my experience as a musician, that's always been there, that underlying excitement to be playing in orchestra. Then you get like older and other obstacles come in when you're in school, and then other obstacles come in when you have a job. Like you just, like normal life. But my perspective, I think in general has stayed the same, which is that like why I'm doing this is to, again, be part of a giant puzzle that's like cranking out this amazing music for people. And that feeling of hearing the full orchestra and getting also getting the feedback from the audience is really like, I don't know, that's a huge part of it. Like when we didn't have audiences for COVID, that was really weird. We didn't have like any feedback, not even applause, but just like knowing that an audience is there is like, I didn't realize how big that was. But I think my perspective, I feel like maybe I've started to appreciate it more as I go, because when you're younger, you don't really know. I think maybe I also didn't know how hard it was, what I was doing. I think it was just fun. I was just excited, and then you realize how hard it is, and you're like, oh no, like, can I do that? That happened for sure in college. And then you get past that, and then you learn to sort of appreciate the essence of what you're doing, like on a more simple level. And I think even when I started in Grand Rapids Symphony, even just those 7 years so far have been that exact trajectory. Like when I started, I was just excited to be here, and I still love being here. But that sort of goes away once you get over your first year, and then you're like, wait, can I do this? This is scary. And then you get through that, and then you're like, okay, this is fun again. And it's always been fun, but it's getting through those scary moments and trying to remember why you're doing this. That's important.
Do you still get nervous when you go on stage?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think the audience gave you that kind of nervous ability?
Yeah, it could be. I think getting nervous is actually important. I think there's a point where it gets too far and then it sabotages you. But I think nervousness as like a response to, or sort of like adrenaline, like you kind of need that push sometimes. When there was no audience, that's why it was pretty weird, because we were just playing for a camera, and it sort of took the adrenaline out of it a little bit. like we were still playing and it was fun, but it was sort of just like we were doing a dress rehearsal with nobody there. Oh wait, but that was the performance. So yeah, audience definitely makes me nervous. I don't get as nervous for a full orchestra performance, but like if I'm playing solo, yeah, definitely.
Talking about college and music, what's a day in the life like for you as a musician, and how do you balance that with teaching at GRCC?
Mm-hmm. So professionally, I think every orchestra is going to have a different, well, first of all, every orchestra has a different schedule. And I will say like our schedule at Grand Rapids Symphony is, because it changes week to week and it's depending on what programs we're doing, I actually do have quite a bit of free time to like do what I need to do, practice, teach, hobbies. That's really important. Like have hobbies. My teaching, I think it's not as hard to balance it as a time commitment because I do have free time and I don't have that many students. So as a time commitment, I can fit people in, usually pretty flexibly. But I think as a mindset is where I have to start balancing because I have to turn on different parts of my brain when I teach versus when I'm playing in orchestra. Because in orchestra, somebody's giving you information, like the conductor is giving you directions. And then you have to switch to you giving the directions. So that was like kind of hard for me because I had to like, you have to access that part of yourself that can do that. So I think for a while I didn't think I could do that because I was like, wait, but I'm so used to getting the direction and just following, being a follower, being part of the pack. I'm really just more comfortable doing that. So teaching, I had to really like access a different part of myself, which can like give directions and be more, I don't know, proactive. And yeah, so that's more of a balance for me than time.
What are some of your hobbies?
Oh, good question. My main hobbies all have to do with being outside. So biking is a big one and hiking. In the winter, I like to go skiing, cross country and downhill, going on walks with my dog. It's a good one. Yeah, usually if I'm not practicing, I would rather be outside if it's nice. If it's nice out.
Do you ever get like nervous while biking that like you're gonna break your hands?
No, not really actually. If I get nervous at all while biking, it's that, oh my God, did I just run over something that's gonna give me a flat tire? Like usually that's what gets me nervous. But I've never been nervous about falling. Skiing though, yes, like that can be dangerous. Going skiing. So you just have to trust yourself. I think that's big in both music and whatever hobbies, sports related things you're doing, is to trust yourself that you're not going to like fall flat on your face, either literally or figuratively. And if you do, it's fine. You just get back up.
Yeah. I know here at the Haas Performing Arts Center, we have a big group of people that go and play pickleball every week.
That's in now.
Yeah. So that's always a fun time. We get all the music students going, and sometimes it can get very competitive.
I have not done that yet. So
we would recommend.
Okay. I mean, I like ping pong,
sure.
so I've heard that's kind of, it's like giant ping pong.
Yeah.
So that'd be fun.
Yeah. I want to go back to talking more about balancing your time and things like that. When it comes to the symphony, you guys have to cycle through rep like constantly all the time. I mean, you have a different concert every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage your practice time with that?
Yeah. You kind of, some weeks I feel like I'm just barely, oh shoot, I got to look at this today because that rehearsal is coming up tomorrow or in 2 days. Like some weeks it is like that. So you're just sort of cramming. So individual practice, a lot of times for me, is actually listening to recordings of stuff with my part. Because I think score studying, either if it's your own part or just the full score, is even better. I think score studying is really helpful. Like then you know what you're listening for. And then you're like, okay, this part, even though it looks scary on my part on the page, it's not actually that scary. Or vice versa. Like something that looks simple might be really fast. So you just gotta, just to listening to stuff really helps. And it gets me like, excited for what we're gonna play too. Especially if I'm pressed for time, maybe listen to it in the car. If I'm driving, so like listen to whatever we're going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it probably gets easier over time too, as you complete these symphonies and all of these various works, you've already have those in the back of your mind too.
Yeah.
And then they just get back up.
Yeah.
So it's probably
pretty much as you cycle through rep, you just sort of, oh, I remember this one.
Yeah.
Then you start gaining some confidence. Yeah.
Yeah. And as an orchestral musician professionally, how far in advance do you guys get the music typically?
We get 2 weeks before. That's the rule. And then do with that what you will.
Wow.
So
How much do you practice each day? Like,
that's always a loaded question. I think I practice enough that I will feel good, because my goal is to feel good when I get to rehearsal. Like, feel good both mentally that I like know the part, and physically that I'm like taking care of my body actually, so that I'm not going to get injured. So whatever I need to do to get there is what I'll do. And usually it's not more than like, I don't know. It's not more than 3 hours for sure. Maybe 2. Cause that's like, and it's also with breaks. Cause I don't, going too hard for like a full hour with no breaks is not good for you. I don't think, at least for me. I know people that can do that, but part of it is what I need to learn in a given week. So like, there's sometimes I'm doing gigs on the side that are chamber music. That's really oh wait, I have a really exposed part this week. I need to. So yeah, some weeks are more involved than others, but I definitely, if I don't practice for even a day, the next day feels kind of weird. I'll say that. That's like, so it's not, I try to play every day, at least scales. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah. And how are you impacted differently as opposed to the rest of the section being assistant principal?
Yeah, being assistant, it's a hard job because you have to be ready at any moment. If the principal gets sick or whatever happens, like you have to be ready to play if there are, not even just if there are solos, but you have to be ready to lead, I guess. And even just being, like the times I've sat principal versus assistant, like that job changes just moving over one seat, your job changes. It's sort of like what I experienced when I taught, when I started teaching more. Like you have to step into a part of yourself that is more comfortable being the leader and giving directions, not verbally always, but just leading, playing in a way that you're bringing others with you, encouraging others to play with you. Versus when you're assistant, you don't want to do that from your seat because that's not your job, because that's the principal's job. So you don't want to like over lead, but you do want to play strongly. So that's a balance. And then also, yeah, just being ready to like step in if you are needed.
Yeah. And with the time crunch and everything, do you ever get burnt out by having to focus on so much?
Yeah, definitely. Burnout is a thing that happens to everybody. There are so many days where I'm, I just really don't want to practice, or I just really like, this week is not, really not looking forward to this week. It could be any reason. And the reasons that you get burnout might surprise you when you're experiencing it. You're just like, wait, I didn't think I would get burned out by this. That's happened to me quite often, where like experiencing burnout from classical music. I remember a few times thinking, wait, but this isn't supposed to happen. This is supposed to be fun. And wait, it is fun, but it's real life. It's not, it's still hard, and it's a job at the end of the day that you have to treat as a job sometimes. And it's like, sometimes you're not going to want to do it and you have to do it anyways. And then at the end of the day, you'll feel better that you did it, even if it wasn't that fun. But most of the time after I do it, I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't that bad. It's usually the lead up to it that I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah.
So those days you do get burnt out, you're just like, I just don't really want to play cello.
Yeah.
Is it motivation or is it discipline that makes you really like, I need to do this?
It's probably more discipline, I guess, because motivation is usually the thing I'll be lacking I just have no motivation to play right now. And I will say that can also be caused, aside from the job, like just cello playing, that can be caused by just self-doubt, that normal self-doubt that creeps in, where you're just like, oh, but I just like, things aren't sounding good lately. It's not fun to practice. which is a funny statement because like, of course it's not that fun. I mean, it can be fun, but for me, it's more that, okay, if I just at least get up and play a scale, you know, and lower my expectations for how I'm going to sound, because yeah, I guess I have to lower my expectations because I really do think, and as musicians, we tend to be perfectionists. You guys know, like you're like, well, it has to sound this way, and why doesn't it sound this way? And for me, I deal with that a lot in my practicing, which is, why doesn't it sound this way from the beginning? Like, why can't I just sound good? You know, like that's kind of an unrealistic expectation. So I think what gets me to actually get on a roll of practicing is to just like start with something that is very low stakes, like play scales or play a melody that I like. You don't have to, I think I expect myself to like feel really warmed up before I start playing real music. You can warm yourself up by playing melodies too. So I think if you could call that discipline, because you're disciplining your mind to like lower your bar first and then raise it a little bit and then raise it more throughout a practice session. And it will reset every day for me too. Because it's not just like, you know, even it might not go all the way down to 0 every day, especially if I'm on a roll of consecutive days, but it does have to be reset. I have to like really remind myself, okay, it's not gonna be perfect. It's probably never gonna be perfect actually. So.
Yeah. Was there ever a point where you considered quitting music altogether?
I mean, I think I haven't really seriously considered quitting music because for me as a person, I think I was always like, oh, well, what else am I going to do? Like
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of sad, but I think I mean that as like well, I don't really want to do anything else. So knowing that, I always have to, you know, remind myself. But yes, there have been times where I'm like, oh, I should just quit. I should just do something else. Like this isn't happening, you know? And as soon as I say that to myself, then I'm like, okay, well, what else would you do? Like, then I start to think about it logically. And then I'm like, come back to earth. Like you'll be fine. Like it's not that big a deal. And I think this, just like what I was just saying about lowering your expectations, I always have to remind myself that voice that's like, oh, you just quit. That's coming from a part of me that thinks I should be perfect at music and be like, you know, playing at the highest possible level. And I have to, you know, it's just so much pressure, and it's all coming from myself. So as soon as I just say, okay, wait, this isn't actually that big a deal. My mom always likes to say, it's just music. When I was growing up, I'd be like, what are you talking about? That's like ridiculous. Music is so important. And it is, but it's not life or death. Yeah.
And I kind of want to go back to kind of merging both the balancing your time and then the go time frame with Grand Rapids Symphony and all of that. When you're practicing, what practice strategies do you use to practice as efficiently as you can since you're under that time crunch?
That's a good question. I hate to bring up the metronome, but that's actually a really efficient way to do it. And I think for me, metronome has always been sort of a scary thing to, you know, oh, like I shouldn't need the metronome. I should just know how to. Actually, metronome is really helpful for efficiency because then it doesn't have to take that long. I think in the beginning I had an idea that I need to go all the way back to like half speed and then work it all the way up. Sometimes, yes, if it's something that you have a long time to learn. But for a lot of times for orchestra music, I just need to do a few clicks slower, maybe more than a few, like 15 clicks. Do it in different rhythms. Like if it's a fast passage, like I will practice it like mess up the rhythm a little bit and like kind of get creative. It's hard to explain without an instrument, but if there's like four 16th notes in a row, you do 1 plus 3, and then you do 2 plus 2, and then you do 3 plus 1. That strategy helps me like with coordination. And usually I find that all I need is to get my hands to be on the same page. And that's like half the battle for me when learning things fast. And so metronome is like it's not easy to get a metronome out and use it all the time, but and I wouldn't recommend playing with a metronome all the time. It gets you'll feel like you're stuck that way. But for learning things fast, then yeah,
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the rhythm thing is good too. I use that a lot in my practice strategies too, just in like faster passages and stuff.
Yeah.
As students at Grand Valley who are thinking, and students from all over, thinking about going into the professional route with performance, what is the audition process like going into a professional setting like that?
Yeah. Audition processes are kind of a crazy concept for orchestral musicians, or I should say a crazy concept to anybody I tell that's not a musician. They're like, whoa, that's weird. You don't even do an interview? Your audition is like your interview.
Yeah.
So yeah, the audition process is, it's rigorous because it's very mental. In fact, it's mostly mental. Like there's practicing involved, and there's physical, all the stuff we're talking about with metronomes and practice strategies. There's that, but mostly auditions are mental, and the process is different for everybody. I think everybody has different strengths and weaknesses and things that freak them out. Like some people can just go on stage and just play, and for a live audition and there's a screen there, it doesn't faze them, for some people it's really hard to, no matter if there's a screen or if you can see an audience, it's really hard to, and I'm one of those people, it's really hard to like, put yourself into, this is just another performance. But it does feel different because you go out there and there's a screen, you can't see anybody, you're just alone on the stage, and you're playing excerpts of pieces that should be played with other people, and you're just playing them by yourself. And you have to play each one in the style that they should be played in, So that process, the process of auditioning for me actually involved stepping back from all of that, because I think at first you're like, okay, I have to play this one this way, and this one this way, and this one another way, and they're going to expect this. And I think the process of getting comfortable on auditions involves stepping away from that and being like, okay, well, why do I like this excerpt? Why do I like this piece? Again, with listening to recordings, all the excerpts are in the pieces, and to listen to the full thing, and a lot of times I'll play with the full thing just to feel like what it feels like to play. Even if it's just me with a recording, it still kind of emulates the feeling of playing with the full orchestra. So then I try to do that on stage in the real thing. Just imagine the orchestra behind you. So that's my biggest thing. And everybody's going to be different, but my biggest thing in the process is to try to remember that nobody wants to see you fail. Nobody's like, oh, he did that wrong. Like, people are usually, they just want to hear you play music, and they want to hear you play how you feel. So I think it's the process is more about figuring that out for yourself than it is anything else. I mean, it involves a lot of steps, and getting to auditions is a whole thing too, especially with cello. Like, you have to fly with it sometimes and buy a seat for it, and that adds to the stress of the whole trip. And so you have to figure out you have to figure out your own process, really, and that just takes doing it a bunch of times.
And when you were auditioning, did you have to do any solo pieces at all, or was it all just excerpts?
You start out with a solo piece because that's how you announce yourself, basically. This is my playing. Usually they require an exposition of a concerto. Some large orchestras, they just say first movement of a concerto, and you just got to know it. And they might, you never know, they might ask a random part of it. And then you move on to excerpts from there. And then for my job here, I had to play other extra orchestral solo excerpts for cello that would have been for example, if I had to step over into a principal seat last minute and play a solo, they need to know that you can do that. So yeah.
And I'm assuming lots of the solo pieces you probably just brought back from past experiences. Overall, with the excerpts, with the solo pieces, how long did it take you to prep for that audition?
For the audition here, oh man, I can't remember now. But the other thing was that I was preparing for auditions,
right?
Not just for this one, but there were two others in the next 2 weeks. So I was kind of crazy and did all of those at the same time. And most of them are overlapping excerpts. So they have similar pieces on them, and there's a standard list. So in general, I think at Rice, I was doing a lot of practicing excerpts, even if there was no audition coming up. I just was learning them. And I think so. That process, you could say that took a year and 2 years. And I even before that, even at Eastman, I took a couple auditions when I was still an undergrad. And so, I mean, you could say that from my like junior or senior year of Eastman until now, I'm still practicing excerpts. So it just, but for this audition, I a few months to just like get comfortable with that, with the list. Yeah.
What concerto did you play or
I
excerpt?
played Schumann concerto, which is my favorite personally for cello.
It's a good one.
A lot of people play Dvorak, Haydn. I think I had to play Schumann, but then maybe I had to play a little bit of Haydn. Some orchestras require both. Like they want a classical concerto. So for violins, it'll be Mozart usually, and then a romantic concerto. For cellos, it'll be Haydn, and then something romantic. So Schumann I always picked because that's what I learned in my master's. Dvorak I've always been a little bit more scared of because it's just, it's a daunting piece. But I have played that in an audition before. So yeah. But usually I go with Schumann if it's an option.
So for excerpts, just to top it off, would you say you have a favorite excerpt that you ended up playing?
That's a good one. One of my favorite excerpts is the solo from Brahms Piano Concerto No. 2. That's the third movement of that piece. Is it starts out and ends with a really nice cello solo. Just like, I don't know. And Brahms, I love Brahms. He's another one of my favorites besides Mahler. But yeah, I would say that's my favorite excerpt. Just in the regular standard orchestral excerpts, Beethoven 5. I think that's it's hard, but I don't know. I've always liked that piece. It's kind of corny, but there's a reason that everybody loves that piece. Like it's so good. And the second movement is just really, it's just really like calm and comforting, even though you don't feel that while you're playing it maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, we got to play that this past year with our orchestra here at GV, and it was a really fun piece to play. So
yeah. There's some favorites and there are some not favorites, obviously.
Yeah. And with that, in orchestra, I know that sometimes, obviously, it's your job. Do you think that you view it more as just your job, or is it you keep going because of your passion for it?
I think sometimes I'll have to tell myself, I am really lucky that this is my job, that I'm going to work right now to play some Mozart, for example. Like it's not many people get to say that. So and it's cool that how I get paid is to play music that I love and with people that I really enjoy being around. Actually, I will say like everybody in the symphony from the day I first got here was so welcoming to me, and there are still new people coming in, and it's a good group. I actually met my wife at work.
There you go.
So
Nice.
she's the assistant concertmaster, and I just have a great group of friends, and going to work with my wife is pretty cool. I got to say that's like, not many people get to say that, and that's what my parents lived, and well, they didn't always go to the same place, but it's cool to sort of be living that now.
Yep. And do you still play solo rep or pieces just for fun? Like it could be anything. It could be maybe you hear a movie soundtrack and you're like, I really want to play that right now.
Yes. Yeah. So actually, a lot of times for me, it's my favorite thing to play and listen to is Bach. So there was a period of time where I was listening to Bach cantatas every Sunday. And I still do this. This is going to sound really nerdy, but because we just passed the 200th anniversary of Bach writing his cantatas in Leipzig, I listened to all of them in the order that he wrote them every Sunday. So it took me 2 years, but sometimes I would play along with them, and that was really fun. Sometimes I just play Bach suites because I feel like it. Again, like warming up with a melody doesn't matter. And like, it's funny because like, I think musicians like to, I don't know, it's boring if we just practice orchestra music. We like to play whatever we feel like, to whatever's in our head that day. Sometimes I'll just have a piece in my head and I'll need to listen to that just to get it out of my head, even just to like why do I have this piece in my head? Or what is this piece I have in my head? Why can't I remember this? And I'll ask my wife, what is this piece? Oh yeah, that. And then I'll play it. And then, okay, maybe it'll be out of my head now.
And then just one last question for me. Do you have a favorite Bach cello suite? And if so, do you have a favorite movement from that suite?
Oh yeah. My favorite suite, I feel like, is the fifth one. And my favorite movement from that is the Sarabande. It's such a dark movement, and the whole thing is dark. The whole suite is dark. That's right now, though. I think that changes sometimes. Like when I was in high school, I was listening to Bach's Sixth Suite all the time, like nonstop. And the Allemande was my favorite. It just depends. Like, I don't know what it depends on. Maybe where you are in your life or what mood you're in. But yeah, right now I think my favorite is the Sarabande from the Fifth Suite, because it's just so like simple, but it's so like deep at the same time.
Talking about mental process, I guess, were there any teaching philosophies or approaches from your mentors that you've carried into your own teaching today?
Yes, both of my teachers. I still do things when I warm up. I still do the things that I learned from my teacher Steve Doan at Eastman. I teach the same sort of things to my students. And one thing I always appreciated about both my teachers, my teacher at Rice was Desmond Hobig, and both of them, they had a really good way of adapting their teaching style to the student. And I think that's what I try to do too, is not just not sort of churn out information because that's what I learned, but hey, like, let me step back and what does this student actually need right now? Oh, maybe this thing will help them. And usually that thing is something I learned like from my teachers. So yeah, definitely I use what they taught me.
Going back to performances and the nervousness people get from performing, do you have any rituals or habits that keep you grounded on performance days?
Definitely I have to do like a moment of quiet breathing. That's huge. Stretching, I have like a couple like just go-to stretches I like to do to make sure my arms are loose. But yeah, for the mental aspect of it, it's just like making sure I'm breathing, because it sounds kind of obvious, but a lot of times you stop breathing normally when you're playing and if you're nervous. And that's, if you're not breathing normally, you're not getting enough oxygen to the parts that need it. And you just need to remember, like, especially before you go on stage, okay, I know how to breathe normally. And then once in a while you can check in with yourself during the performance and, oh yeah, let me remember to breathe.
Real. That's so real.
Yeah.
What is the most unexpected part of orchestral life that students might not realize until they're in it?
I would say the great thing about orchestra is that you are one piece of a giant puzzle and there's maybe 100 other pieces. The frustrating thing about orchestra is that there are 100 other pieces to the puzzle that you have to work with. Even more than that, all the 100 pieces of the puzzle have to buy into what the conductor is saying. So just a side note, I do not envy being a conductor, because you have to like bring everybody together into your one idea and sell it to people and like really get them to buy it. The most difficult thing I found about being in an orchestra is like, how do I put aside how I hear this piece and just let go of some of the control that I have? Everybody has a little control issues, especially musicians. But I think I really have to. I think I had to really find a way to, I don't know, find the zen, I guess, where I'm not just like, oh, but I want it to sound like this, and like, it's never going to sound exactly the way you want it to. Just like when you practice by yourself, no matter what orchestra, no matter if you're in college or professional. So I think just letting go of that is really important, because it might catch you off guard. You're like, wait, but I thought these people were like this, and I thought this conductor was going to say this, but he wants this, or she. I thought, you just have to like be open, I think, and expect to have things not go the way you think they're going to go.
Yeah. And for students going into the more professional setting with orchestra, what advice would you give them for their audition process?
I would say definitely find your own process. You got to just kind of do it for a few times to even figure out. You won't have it figured out by the time you do it the first time. It might feel super scary. Some people win the first audition they take, which is crazy, but it happens. But don't expect that you're going to have it all figured out right away. It's a whole process, and it's a different journey for everybody. And I would say just find what you like need for yourself to feel comfortable, and just treat it like another performance, even if it doesn't feel like one. It's weird, but just treat it like another chance to like showcase who you are as a player. I try to think, instead of like, oh, I'm really nervous for this, I try to think I'm really excited for this, you know? And not to say that you shouldn't be nervous. You know, it's important to recognize all the anxiety that comes with it. It's important to recognize it, but you know, to try to turn it into excitement is really something that works for me. So, yeah.
All right. So kind of transitioning from that into something more funny. Do you have any good symphony stories you could tell us?
Good symphony stories. There's so many. We always have fun when we're in the pit and doing Nutcracker. One of my favorite things, it's sort of become a tradition, is that, and people can go listen to this movement, but you know, the Waltz of the Flowers, there's a point towards the end, and I'm not going to sing it because that would be terrible, but there's a point towards the end of Waltz of the Flowers where, you know, and it's very repetitive at the end, and there's a point where all the cellos do a cello spin. And because we're in the pit, we can, like, nobody can see us, we can do that. And I think the cello spin is one of the things I look forward to every year in the pit, is like is the shenanigans, you know. It's fun. Do you see how many times you can spin it around? And I wouldn't recommend this in orchestra especially if you don't have that much space. But yeah, so there's just funny stuff like that where it reminds me, like, hey, this is a fun group of people, and I really like my section. My cello section this is a great bunch and really supportive, and you know, to have people that are down to do things like a cello spin is
yeah. I think a lot of people view music as like a very firm and like prestigious thing, but deep down it's very kind of just very funny people.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's a character. Like, everybody's just, you know. And I think, yes, there's times when it is serious and it's deep, but you know, half the time we're playing music that should get people to smile and laugh, and not just be serious, but laugh, even cry, and maybe get mad, like all the emotions. You need to have all of it. So, yeah.
As we're kind of wrapping up here, what's one piece of advice you want students to take away from this episode, or in general?
One piece of advice. Well, you know, just like taking what you just said about music being serious, like, you know, don't be so serious all the time. Be serious about what you want. Like, you know, if you want to pursue music, obviously be serious about that. Like, that's, yes, like as a concept, you go for it. But have fun while you're doing it, because if it's not going to be fun, like, it's not, you know, what is it then? It has to be. I think just remember to let go of all the serious stuff sometimes, you know, and it's going to feel like there's a lot of pressure to succeed, and there is there's always going to be pressure from the outside, but at least within yourself, don't let your pressure overwhelm you from yourself. That's a big one. Like, just remember why you love it, and, you know, have fun.
Yeah. And are there any books or resources you would recommend to students?
Not to avoid the question, but in fact, I would say maybe even journaling was a better resource for me than reading anything. And that's just me as a person. I think I needed to figure out, okay, well, let me respond to what I'm hearing from myself, and not like what this person who wrote a book says that you need to do. I think, having said that though, there's books out there that are really helpful. I read a book, and it wasn't even about auditioning, called You Are Here, It's by a Buddhist monk, and it's about being in the moment, and about being present, and meditation is a big part of that book. Another book I would say is The Inner Game of Tennis. It's a good one. It's a good read. Read.
Yeah, I've heard that's a good book.
Yeah.
The last thing I'm going to ask is for anybody that's interested in learning more about you or the GRS, where can they go? Who can they contact? Those types of things.
Go to the website, grsymphony.org, and you can find all the information on our website, and musician bios are there too. So
great.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up our guest episode for today. I want to thank Braden and Seamus for being here and helping guide today's conversation. And of course, a big thank you to Andrew for sharing his experiences and giving us a glimpse into the world of professional music. It was great having you with us today.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
If you or someone you know would like to be featured on Tutti Talks, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a DM at Tutti Talks Podcast or email us at tuttitalkspodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. We've got guest spotlights, behind-the-scenes content, and plenty more musical conversations coming your way. If you enjoyed today's chat, spread the word, whether that's with a fellow musician, a friend in your studio, or someone who'd appreciate these discussions. Every share helps grow this community and reach more people in the music world. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tutti Talks. Keep the music playing, keep the conversation going, and we will see you in the next one.